In meinem Vortrag werde ich Techniktrends als auch politische Rahmenbedingungen in Europa und in Deutschland vorstellen. Ich werde hier eingangs gezielt auf Marktdaten eingehen, wo ich dann zum einen zeige, dass wir hier in Deutschland noch sehr viele alte Heizungen haben, wo es darum geht, die Heizungen auch auszutauschen. Dann zum Schluss werde ich aber auch die einzelnen Technologien vorstellen und man wird sehen, dass es bereits jetzt sehr viele technische Lösungen gibt, um die politischen Klimaschutzziele, die wir in Deutschland und auch in Europa haben, zu lösen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Lothar Breidenbach. I'm Managing Director for Technology in the Federal Association of the German Heating Industry, BDH. And today I would like to give you an overview of the market in Germany, the heating market in Germany, as we have it today in terms of figures. But I also would like to give you an outlook on political issues. I will start with Europe. A lot of regulations directly come from Brussels and are then translated into the law of the different member states. Then, of course, I will talk about Germany. And finally, I will talk about the different technologies that you can see at the different stands and booths on the trade show. And you also see the information boards here at our stand. We have a lot of technologies with which we can reach the climate protection goals in Germany and Europe without any problems. You could solve all these problems already today. All right, let's start with the association as such. A few sentences about our BDH association. As the name says, we represent the entire heating industry. We are a pure industry association. Only manufacturers are our members, and we cover the entire heating system. That is heat generation, that is modern wood, gas, oil boilers, but also electrical systems, heat pumps, then CHP systems, heat storage and distribution, recirculation pumps, and also transmission systems to radiators or surface heating systems, panel heating systems. I come to that later on. The idea of the system is really important. You not only talk about the heat generator, but everything has to go together well, has to fit. We have 100 member companies in the BDH. In Germany, we have a market coverage of 90%. In Europe, it's about 60%. And that figure shows you that we are international, that our manufacturers in Germany are international. We make a turnover of about 14 billion euros globally with 72,000 employees, and also the F&E, research and development expenditure, are decent. They are 640 million euros, and that's really high, especially if you consider it with respect to the turnover. Our claim is Association for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energies. These two aspects should not be forgotten when you want to reach the climate protection goals. Now let's start with some statistics. On this slide, you can see the systems that are used in the market in 2015 in Germany. We have 21 million heat generators. How are they composed of? I'm only talking about hydraulic systems. We have generators that are part of hydraulic heating systems, no open fireplaces or stoves, and no air systems are included in that figure. The main part is condensation boilers based on gas, 8.7 million units, a very high figure, and then also very high, 5.1, mainly old oil boilers. That's 14 million nearly. which is more than 60%. And also here you can see the potential that is there for the older boilers to be exchanged against new ones. Then oil condensation technology, gas condensation technology 4.9. Then oil condensation systems, about 0.6 million. It only was started as of 2005, and therefore it's much fewer than compared to gas. Electrical heat pumps, 0.8 million, and biomass boilers, 9 million. These are the wood-fired systems, and it includes old boilers as well that have big dust emissions, and these boilers have to be exchanged against newer ones. On the right-hand side, you can see the installed collector surface, that is the thermal solar systems. And here we have about 19.2 million square meters, and if you consider a typical size, 7-8 square meters per unit, that would be 2.2 million units that are installed in order to generate solar energy, thermal solar energy. These are the sales figures from the year 2016. Before you had the total unit numbers, and these are the sales figures. In 2016, it was 700,000 units. That is only those that are part of hydraulic systems. Here we have gas and oil with about 600,000 units leading it. And if you break it down, you see gas condensation, 456,000, gas low temperature technology, 71,000, oil condensation technology, 67,000, and oil low temperature technology, 4,000. You can see the change as compared to 2015. With condensation, everything is red, and these are the targets because of the Eco-Design Directive. That's the reason. As of the 26th of September 2015, we had the mandate or the obligation to install condensation systems. With the gas systems, they have multiple chimney connections. They can be continued to be sold, but there is a drop of 31%, and with oil there are some exceptional rules. Till 2018, the boiler burner combinations where you might have products of different manufacturers, and here till the end of 2018 you can still use a low temperature boiler. Biomass minus 4%, about 30,000 units, and it breaks down in chips, pellets and logs, and a decline in the third year is pellets, and that's due to the low oil price, I'd say, and also early investment effects with the wood chip boilers. We had the first binge regulation in Germany for the reduction of electricity consumption. And heat pumps, that's the big winner in 2016, but it's still a small share, 66,500. That's less than 10% of the total market, but at least it's a beautiful growth of 17%, air water plus 15%, brine water plus 29%, and the others plus 2%. With the heat pumps, we can really say that a lot of units are being used in new buildings or in modernized old buildings. And with brine water, it has plus 29%, and we had a decline for many years before. And the reason here is that there is a good incentive program that was revised in 2015. And for new buildings, there are other subsidies. If you reach certain annual seasonal figures, then you get better subsidies, and therefore the figure went up. Now, the other components, I go through them more quickly. Thermal solar system, minus 8%. That's very sad. We were at 2.1 million square meters before. Now it's only 740,000. Well, and in other countries outside Europe, it doesn't look better. So that's a very sad development. We do hope that it will pick up this year again, but we have to see that the market has been reduced to 1/3. Storage systems, only hot water systems, -1%. That's more or less according to the development of general heat generators, about 500,000 units. Ventilation systems, central with heat recovery, that is with a heat exchanger, or in combination with a heat pump, +7%, about 50,000 units being sold. So that's a relatively big segment. Ventilation decentral, but also with heat recovery, +22%. That's 144,000 units. But you should say that in a building, normally 3 or 4 units are being used, and therefore you have a bigger unit number here in total. But unfortunately, we have to say that the two technology, central and decentral, compete a bit, and therefore for the central systems, we don't have the growth rates as we had before. CHP, up to 50 kW electric, -7%, about 5,000 units. That's a shame. We were at 8,000 units before, but the problem here is that the electricity prices have gone down. If you compare it with 4 years ago, it's more than 3 cents now. And even if you feed in, there are disadvantages. And with larger plants, as of 5 kW, the EEG levy, the German law levy for renewable energies, really shows effect. We hope that it would be compensated for because of legal measures, but politics has not fulfilled as announced. Then surface or panel heating, underfloor heating +11%, and that's due to the intensive new building activities. Radiators -1%, tanking system, plastic for oil boilers +1%. I think that's due to the revitalization of the oil boiler market, this black figure. Burners -4%, 100,000 units, and exhaust technology, stainless steel, -8%, but this is referred to the turnover. Now, let me talk about the political framework conditions. I would like to start with Europe briefly, but later on I will only talk about concrete measures like the label. But here, probably once again, the goals, the recent goals, still based on a decision of the European Council of October 2014. And the goal was to reduce greenhouse gas or CO2 gas till 2030 by 40%, referred to 1990. Efficiency increase 27%, also referred to 1990, and the share of renewable energies shall be at 27%. Down there in small letters, but I hope you can see it, these are the most important directives from that area for buildings, and that's first of all the directive on the total energy efficiency of buildings. That's, so to speak, the basis of the energy saving decree in Germany. Then we have got the energy efficiency directive, which makes which determines requirements about energy efficiency. That's 1.5% improvement per year. Then there is the Eco Design Directive. I'll come back to that later on. This is meant for very specific products, and this is environmental tolerance or efficiencies or emissions that are looked at, but also requirements to be fulfilled by the materials used. And on the right-hand side, the Renewable Energy Directive, which only sets the framework, and the target was defined before that in the year 2020 a share of renewable energies across all sectors of 20% was to be reached. Well, definitely you've heard about the so-called winter package. This is a package with 8 legal proposals of the European Union Commission published on the 30th of November 2016, and therefore deliberations are taking place within the Council of Europe and the European Parliament. This happens in parallel because they want to come to a conclusion faster. In this little box, you see the projects that are looked at for buildings in particular. That's the renewal of the Renewable Energy Directive. And here they discuss about a target. That is, the member states shall increase the share of renewable energies for heatings in buildings. They should increase it by 1% per year. And then there is a revise of the Energy Efficiency Directive that is being discussed. And among others, they want to determine a target for the year 2030. The 27% shall be increased to 30%. You know, I showed you this before. This annual increase of 1.5% are with public buildings of 3% per year shall be continued beyond the year 2020. And then there is the so-called European primary energy factor, which is mentioned in the label for heat generators, because systems like gas, oil can be compared with electricity systems. At the moment, the factor is 2.5, and here this factor is to be reduced to 2.0 and make sure that there is more intensive use of renewable energies. Then the Building Efficiency Directive. All right, not much will happen here, so that more and more electricity generation in the building is being considered, and also there should be a possibility to charge electrical vehicles, and that should be considered in the total balance. But there won't be that much. You know, there is a trend that many European Union states don't want to be told that much any longer by the European Union. We'll get the targets and directives also in the future from Europe in the future, but then, you know, nation states will come in and bring in their own rules, their own national laws, and the member states will have more scope of maneuver. Maybe here two things in concrete terms. This is the Eco-Design and Labeling Directive. Eco-Design, I mentioned it before. Here, the Eco-Design requirements are being defined, and they will be applicable for the products mentioned, and they will be used or have to be used in a uniform way in all member states. The Eco-Label, I need not explain. We know it from the refrigerator, and since last year also for heating, since the 26th of September 2016. Well, Eco-Design. Here you have a list of the products that are being included. These are the boilers. I mentioned before we have the requirement to use condensation technology. That's the result. Then we have Lot 2. That's a product group. These are the instantaneous hot water units. There are NOx requirements that will be introduced next year, and for the instantaneous hot water units, it might be difficult, but this is the segment that we don't have that much any longer in Germany. With hot water storage systems in September, there will be new requirements, and here, you know, the yardstick is very high. Only the good storage systems should be used. In Germany, we have had them for a longer time, and they should be the minimum standard. There are other areas like indoor ventilation systems. There are also certain requirements. Then pumps under Lot 11, the heat pumps, for example. There are certain requirements to be fulfilled that only high efficiency pumps can be used. And this requirement comes from the respective European Union regulation on the Eco-Design Directive. Then, as of the 1st of January 2020, there will be requirements for wood-fired boilers like CO, dust, etc. This is another short overview where the different products are being used for heating. This is a general structure. If a product does not use renewable energy sources and generates electricity, then maximum you can reach A. But if you use renewable energies and generate electricity, then it goes up to A3 plus. A triple plus, and CHPs and hot water, air water heat pumps are A plus, and also the modern wood-fired boilers, they get the label as of 2017. They are A plus, and because of the primary energy factor, brine water systems can even reach higher efficiency classes. Condensation systems are under A. Non-condensation systems are labeled C and D, and in Germany we had the existing system labels, and since last year it's a voluntary system with chimney sweepers, etc., and other experts. They grant the label, and we do hope that there will be some movement so that the operator of an old boiler can see, well, I only get C or D here as a label, and then they deal more intensively with the label, because the effect that we have seen in the past 1.5 years since the introduction of the label unfortunately indicates that the end user is not aware of it, doesn't use it. Probably it's due to information, and we have to make sure as an industry that we get the information to the users. Now, national issues. Climate Protection Plan 2015, last year, that was a focal issue, and there were also some statements demanding that as of 2013 for new heating system, gas and oil must not be used any longer. Wood was attacked as well, and they said because of the CO2 reduction function, wood should stay in the forest and not be burned. But on the 14th of November, we got a paper adopted that was a bit weaker, and there you can see the rough line. And there shall be a feasibility study, and in the next 2 to 3 years, the different measures shall then be defined concretely. On the right-hand side down there, it says interim goals 2013. That's what happened in the last moment of the deliberations of the federal government. And I have circled the block for building. In 2014, they had 119 million CO2 equivalents. Until 2013, they want to go to 67 to 68. That's about 40% reduction. And also, with the technologies that you find, that I showed to you, whether it's modern heat pumps, whether it's CHP systems or gas and oil condensation systems combined with solar thermal energy or wood-fired boilers, of course, logically, with some measures also in the area of insulation of your building shell, you can reach that. In parallel to that, the Economic Ministry discussed the Green Book Energy Efficiency, the Green Paper, and there was a discussion with the federal states and the associations, and end of October last year it was finalized, and probably not in this legislative period, but in the next one, there will be the elaboration of a so-called white paper on energy efficiency. And these are the 3 most important points here. For efficiency first, that the energy requirement can be reduced further, then direct use of renewable energies. This is what you need in terms of energy later on, should be fed in with renewable energy, and then sector coupling. People talk about it everywhere, that renewable energy not only used in areas being used right now, but also more and more in buildings it should be used, and also for traffic and transport. But of course here you have to be careful. It needs to be economically efficient, and the availability needs to be considered of renewable energy. And for days where no sun is shining and where no wind is blowing, of course, you need capacities that you can use. So it's not all that easy, but in the next years, it will be in the political world, and it will be on the political agenda. Now, energy concept from the year 2010. Targets were agreed here as well, and especially for buildings, these are precisely the targets that you find in the Climate Protection Plan or in the Green Paper on energy efficiency. You can see that here the primary energy demand shall be reduced by 80% till 2050. And the basic year is 2008. Today we are at 15%. And based on that target, in the year 2015, the so-called energy efficiency strategy for buildings was adopted by the Ministry of Economics. And here you find the 80% that I mentioned. In the year 2008, we had a primary energy consumption of 4,290 pegajoule, and till it will go down to 860 pegajoule for the year 2050. And for buildings, that would mean, on average, that a residential building should only have a primary energy requirement of 40 per square meter per year, and an average non-residential building 52 kilowatt hours per square meter and year. And there are several scenarios how you can reach that, and they are part of the strategy. One scenario, renewable energies, is preferred by the federal government, and this is what you see on the left-hand side. You don't see the figures, but I can explain the logics of that slide. On the vertical, the y-axis, you have the share of renewable energies, and on the horizontal one, the x-axis, you have energy savings. That is savings because of energy efficiency measures. And the interface is at minus 36%. So 36% shall be reduced with the help of insulation or whatever. So that's what you want to reach in terms of energy savings. And the share of renewable energies will be at 69% on average in order to reach these goals. This is highly ambitious, but at the moment, that's the target that the federal government follows in this energy efficiency strategy for buildings. And this strategy, and that's why I show it to you, finally also was reflected in the Climate Protection Plan, and you will also see it in the report on the Green Paper of energy efficiency. So that will be the guideline for the measures to be taken for buildings. Okay, now briefly on the energy building law. What's the building energy law? This is nothing else but a combination of NF and ANEC. It has been discussed for a long time, and they wanted to enforce it on January 2017, but it didn't happen. It will not come. If at all, we get a small revision, and then it's about the introduction of the so-called lowest energy building standard, which is part of the European directive, and it's abbreviated with NCEP. That's the lowest energy building standard. And the non-public, non-residential buildings, still January 2019, have to fulfill that standard, and all the other buildings, the residential buildings, have to fulfill that on the 1st of January 2021. Of course, the big issue here is what's an NCEP, what's a lowest energy building. And in the draft that we received now at the beginning of the year, for public buildings, the KfW efficiency standard 55 was determined, and that was the reason for the delay. There are different positions in the ministries. Some say it's much too ambitious, and others say to take a step further, and that's also the reason that the GEG, the building energy law, will not come during that legislative period. But we need to use the time in order to reach the goals for 2019 and 2021. So we can assume that after the elections, general elections, in 2018, then they will intensively work on the revision of that standard. Let me talk about the technology. It's there. I mentioned it at the beginning, but it's insufficiently used. And here, I think we should really take a approach using several systems. We have modern gas condensation boilers, and there are also, don't forget that, there are also modern oil condensation boilers. We have 5 million old boilers not using condensation technologies installed in regions where there is no gas grid, and where you don't have a good insulation of your building, and with a heat pump you can't reach that much. So you have to make sure that for the 5 million boilers we find a solution, and with modern technology in combination with solar thermal energy you can also reach a lot. We have the CHP systems established now in the market for a single family home down to 1 kW. At the moment, the fuel cell systems have been introduced. There is a subsidizing system of up to 10,000 euros for a 1 kW system, and we hope that this will also incentivize the situation. We have the pumps, brine, water, brine, water, well, everything that you have seen on the trade show for many, many years. Maybe back to the system idea. I mentioned it before. Oftentimes, people only talk about heat generation. You mustn't do that. With the air-water pumps, you have to create the conditions in order to reach the seasonal performance factors as required, and therefore the heat distribution, the storage, the feeding in has to be integrated in that concept. Digitization, that's a catchword which you hear more and more. Probably it becomes the core issue of this trade show. Also important when considering and combining several technologies, that is electrical heat pump and PV system, an electrical storage heating system. This is only possible with the help of digitization. And also the next point then would be comfort, so that you as plant operator use an app with your smartphone or with your tablet, and then you can see how your system is working at any time. And if you also make it possible for your installer to have that access, then also the installer can do maintenance work from remote. So if there is a setting problem, then he can set the right values remote. And with respect to savings, here you have to see it in relative terms. It depends on the average user, how much is being saved. And we commissioned a study now, and the result is 10 to 15% now. But as I said before, if you do everything correctly manually, you wouldn't save anything. If you don't do anything, you do 40% savings. So you have to be very careful with these savings figures. But a figure of 10, 15% is not unserious, I would say. Now, in conclusion, here on the ISH, we have quite a few information boards. I don't want to go into detail as it's already late. But let me just show to you what we have done here. We took a typical single-family home with a oil consumption of 3,000 liters or gas consumption of 30,000 cubic kilowatt hours, and we just looked into different technologies that we could use and evaluated in terms of energy consumption. You can see the primary energy savings. That's also in connection with the energy pass. And then we have the label shown down there just to show you the energy efficiency classes of the different technologies that could be used. There are 3 boards. We have this one here, that is the gas oil condensation systems combined with solar energy, thermal solar energy and ventilation systems, and also in connection with insulation measures. In the right-hand side example, we assumed that there is an efficiency standard of 70 that is being reached. and therefore we have higher energy savings because of insulation. And that's the variant with electrical heat pump, air, water, brine water, also in connection with ventilation systems. And then here we have wood systems, cogeneration. We have gas or oil variants with solar thermal energy and a chimney, open fireplace with water systems, and we have a modern wood-fired boiler also. Now my summary. Now my outlook. The climate protection goals can only be reached with an accelerated, energetic modernization and refurbishment of the buildings. There are two problems. On the one hand, nothing is really happening when it comes to exchanging oil boilers. In the past 2 years, we had an exchange rate of only 1%. That would mean it takes 100 years till all old boilers are gone. I mean, it won't take that long. They break sooner or later. But in 2013, they're still around. And therefore, for the 5 million old oil boilers, you need to find a solution. The second thing, in addition to the accelerated refurbishment, a decent technology needs to be used. And there's the slogan, energy efficiency and renewable energies, a double package. So both need to be considered. And back to the technologies. They are there, they're available, but they're insufficiently being used. And that refers to the interim goal of the climate protection targets, minus 40%. You can reach that with the given technologies. And if you also improve the insulation of your building, it's possible, also from an economic point of view. That's where we should start, and we should not, be disillusioned because of the climatic goals till 2050, where no fossil energy is to being used. Don't become disappointed or disillusioned. I mean, it's a few years to go, and many systems will have to be exchanged by that time. Then electricity generation with the help of modern heat pumps, sector coupling, and also in new buildings where the energy requirement, because of the last renewable energy law enforcement, really went down. And for cost reasons, that's the best option oftentimes. Digitization, I mentioned that. That becomes more and more important as well. And there are other new technologies like the fuel cell heating systems or the gas heating pump. That's quite new and not fully introduced. It's still around, and they should be used more. The BDH offers you a lot of information. Take the information with you. There is a central brochure that summarizes all the information boards that we have positioned here with some text, and there are other information sheets, and there is other information also available that you can take home.